Alright, what's good? My witches, my wizards, my warlocks, my mages. I'm talking blue mages, red mages, black mages, white mages. Heck, you could be a pink mage for all I care, as long as you're tuning in. This Condensed Chaos by Philly Hine, read out by yours truly, part 6. Let's get it. We have come to accept as natural that events happen in a logical, linear sequence, and that anything which happens outside of this sequence is somehow outside of the natural order of things. This linearity is portrayed in everything from mathematics to popular fiction, to the level where it is embedded in our consciousness and taken for granted. It is the way that we tend to think about our experience of the world, but it is not necessarily how we really experience the world. Chaos theory, in a way, points out the obvious, that one event can change those that follow in a way that can have a tremendous impact upon us. We tend to think of ourselves, for example, as being fairly constant day after day, only changing over a span of time. Chaos theory shows us the complexity which underlies the apparent simplicity. Look at how we model conscious awareness. We talk about normal consciousness and that which is distinct from it as altered states of consciousness. Yet we continually shift from one condition of awareness to another, moving in and out from being aware of what is going on around us. A flash of memory, a dash of fantasy, giving attention to a piece of inner dialogue, a loop of song fragment or advertising jingle, daydreaming, and wondering about possible futures that we are moving into, and more. When you consider that at any given moment, your consciousness can be engaged in many directions at once, the idea of normal consciousness that we all talk about becomes something of a facade. Consciousness behaves in an analog, gradual fashion, not like something definite. The power of chaos theory as a model is that it can approximately model a wide variety of phenomena that previous theories could not. Pre-chaos science approached phenomena in terms of isolating one element of an event or situation and studying it. For example, the dominant approach to understanding our senses is to study each sense in isolation of the others. This can tell us a lot about each sense, but it is not an accurate way of describing how we experience our senses. It is a very common human tendency to confuse the map with the territory. That is, to act as though the models we use to interpret experience actually are the experience. One of the points that chaos theory makes is that no model can describe something utterly accurately. We can only make approximations. Much has been made of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which demonstrates this concept at a mathematical level. A version of the uncertainty principle, which has become a watchword for chaos magicians, is that famous phrase attributed to Hassan I-Sabbah, that nothing is true, everything is permitted. If nothing is true, then questions of proof become irrelevant, and the responsibility, permission for one's actions and beliefs is thrown back upon the individual. If nothing is true, then everything becomes art, play, or make-believe. So you can choose your beliefs and attitudes without feeling the necessity of validating them as truths or scientifically valid. Again, this is a rather obvious statement, although it seems that we tend to agree to act as though the situation was otherwise. Single truths which have an essential character can only be maintained by rigorously ignoring anything which does not conform to a particular belief system. Thus, beliefs survive, even if there is a relative absence of evidence to support them. Chaos magic recognizes the power of malleability of belief, and consequently uses belief as a tool for magical action. Now we can quickly allow beliefs to form the bedrock of our interpretation of reality, allows us to manipulate the ability for magical purposes. Magical models. I'm not talking about women either. The way that magic is generally conceptualized changes as general paradigm shifts in thinking occur. Until fairly recently, in a broad historical sense, practitioners of magic subscribe to the spirit model of magic, which basically states the other worlds are real and are inhabited by various pantheons of discrete entities, elementals, demons, angels, goddesses, gods, etc. The task of the magician or shaman is to develop or inherit a map of the other world, to know the shortcuts and make a few friends or contact relatives over there. Having done this, They have to interact with these spirits in a given way to get them to execute your will. So clergymen pray. Shamans stuff sacred mushrooms into their orifices in order to meet their ancestors, while demonologists, they threaten entities into submission by thundering out bits of the Old Testament. By the 18th century and the rise of science, the idea of animal magnetism arose in the West, the first manifestation of the energy model of magic. This model places emphasis on the presence of subtle energies, which can be manipulated via a number of techniques. Along came Bulwer Lytton and his idea of vril energy, Eliphas Levi and the astral light, mediums and ectoplasm, westernized popular accounts of prana, chakras, and kundalini, and eventually Wilhelm Reich's orgone energy. The next development came with the popularization of psychology, mainly due to the psychoanalytic fads of Freud, Jung, and company. During this phase, the other worlds became the inner worlds. Demons were rehoused into the unconscious mind, and hidden masters revealed as manifestations of the higher self. For some later exponents of this model, tarot cards were switched from being a magical divinatory system to being tools for personal transformation, just as the goddesses and gods came to be seen as not real entities, but psychological symbols or archetypes. Alright, we're going to stop it there, and we'll be back tomorrow with more Condensed Chaos. Have a beautiful night.